Hello. Today, by today, I'm going to actually touch on something that I talked about earlier on Twitter for like a minute. Last night in Portland, there was arrests, there were riots, there were Nazis in the streets. It was crazy, right? And what I'm going to address is essentially the utter hysterics I'm seeing, particularly from the left, having to do with essentially DHS's involvement last night. Lots of accusations of secret police and brown shirt tactics. Also, no, it's not what was occurring. It's just not objectively. Not you can't argue that because it didn't occur that way. So, why don't I set the context here? If you're on the left, you might want to actually listen to this, or if you're if you're somebody who's genuinely scared, of the rise of fascism or something, you probably want to listen to this and take it to heart, because you're being controlled by people who are making you really, really afraid. When that's, you don't have to agree with what's going on, but the hyperbolic's not good. So basically, we set the stage. Portland's been in a constant state of basically every night the Antifa's doing some crap. They're marching, they're protesting, they're rioting, they're vandalizing, they're tearing down statues, they're doing graffiti, they're throwing fireworks, whatever. Portland's a mess. And every time the Portland police arrest people, well, the mayor lets them out. It's a mess. It's been constant. It's been going on as long as Seattle. It's just that the Portland police never let them get a foothold. So that's what's going on in Portland. And I guess it was about midnight last night. I think it was midnight their time. It might have been earlier, because I was online and I saw because I think Portland police tweeted it, and there was messages about it. They basically declared the riot that was occurring. No protest, no. It was a riot at that point, and they declared that the riot that was occurring was now an unlawful assembly. And basically, you have 15 minutes to clear out. Just go home. Go home if you don't want to get arrested. If you don't want to get hit in the face with a tear gas canister, go home. We're giving you a heads up. So that happens. Now, earlier in the day, DHS showed up. And the head of DHS, the guy named Chad Wolf, which is like, it's actually a better name than Chad Thundercock. It's pretty close. I think it's the closest we're going to get in real life. But Chad Wolf, he's the acting secretary of DHS. He is leadership. He's the highest guy in the federal government to run that agency, with the exception, obviously, of the president, because he works at the leisure of the president. That'd be like the head of the FBI coming down. I forget who's in charge right now. It's not Rye. It's whatever. Not that relevant. Important dude comes down, makes an announcement. He's working with local border patrol, because local border patrol, the way the border patrol offices work and whatnot, that's under DHS. So he had some of those people, and he also had the counterterrorism agents who were, there because Antifa has been declared a terrorist organization. You don't have to agree with that decision, but they have. So he's there with his authority to basically find Antifa people and detain them and arrest them. It doesn't mean they don't get attorneys and stuff, but that's what he's there for. So after this assembly has been deemed unlawful, and essentially the Antifa people don't want to go home, and they're rioting and they're doing and carrying on and they're breaking stuff, and even just being out there still screaming at the cops, it's been declared unlawful assembly. You got to leave. So DHS goes and they start grabbing people who look like they're Antifa people. And I don't mean like, oh, you look a certain race. I mean like, if you're in all black and you got Antifa apparel on and you're, covering, they're nabbing you. They're nabbing the black people. And some of the videos are kind of funny because they're just like shocked that these dudes just come up and they're like, no, we're grabbing you. And they're just like, oh, like just sudden use of force. There wasn't that many DHS agents on the ground I saw. There was somebody who recorded everything they did, and they didn't do anything particularly rough. They pretty much just surprised people who were they wanted to detain, and then they grabbed them. Now, there's a number of things I heard that were completely wrong. First, people calling them a secret police organization. Not a secret police organization. Secret police typically don't have their leadership on the ground announce who they are and make like a big social thing. Like, you can go on their social media, like go look at Chad Wolf's Twitter. He posted pictures when he showed up. Secret police don't do that. They were very much not a secret. They were there. I knew they were there on the ground. I don't know why people were like surprised DHS showed up. DHS had been looking into that for like weeks, and they showed up, and Chad Wolf was on the ground, and like I saw these things. I don't know why people are just suddenly surprised that DHS is involved. Definitely not secret police. They also, people were saying, oh, these soldiers were these guys were unmarked military police. Try to say they didn't have an identification. Well, guess what? You don't have to know who a federal agent is. And they were identified because they had patches that said either whether they were from the Border Patrol, like tactical unit, or whether they were just DHS tactical. They had patches on. And they weren't hiding that they were from DHS. I mean, there wasn't anybody like sticking microphones in their face questioning who they were. Not that they have to answer. But that's, like, it wasn't a surprise that these guys weren't like a secret. Like, people who were paying attention, like, they knew who these guys were. And the second part of that is people are saying, we can't see their badges. Where are their badges? How do we know? They're federal agents. Federal agents don't display badges. I mean, think about it. When you see FBI agents, do they have a badge? When you see Secret Service, do they have a badge that's on the outside and invisible at all times? I mean, they have one that's in their ID and whatnot. They have a badge. It does exist because they're, law enforcement. But they don't operate the same way as your local cops. These guys are, this is a counterterrorism force on a federal level. And I don't know why people are just freaking out like these people exist. It's like these guys could have been FBI. They could have been whatever. It doesn't matter. They're federal enforcement. They don't play by the same rules that the local police do. So it doesn't make them secret police, especially because we know who they are. So there was that, and then one of the other things was they were complaining about the unmarked cars. Okay, Border Patrol police and Border Patrol have cars that usually say Border Patrol when they're patrolling. But FBI, DHS, do they usually see those driving around? Those federal agencies are everywhere, but you tell me when's the last time you saw an FBI car that said FBI on the side? It doesn't exist. I mean, you guys should know this from just playing Grand Theft Auto when the FIB, whatever their version of the FBI shows up. They have like a SWAT van that says FIB for FBI on there, but when the cars show up, like they're not marked. The federal vehicles are not marked in the same way local police are. So I don't know why people are surprised that like, oh, they're taking them away in unmarked vehicles. Yeah, because that's what they drive. It's there's nothing. There's a lot of crying wolf, to say the least, and not Chad Wolf. That'd be the good kind of wolf. They're crying. You're crying Nazi. You're crying. It's secret police. It's some kind of Gestapo. And then I've heard people saying it's a brown shirt thing. You're historically illiterate if you actually believe that, or you are completely ignorant to what was actually going on. I know there's always going to be somebody on the ground saying, you don't understand. I was there and they did that. No, it doesn't matter. It was declared unlawful assembly. The whole world that was public information. The fact that DHS was there is public information. The fact that Antifa has been declared a terrorist organization, that's public information. This is a sequence of things you should have seen coming, and you know why they're happening, and you know who's accountable. If you really are that upset about DHS grabbing these people, point at DHS. Say you don't think that they should be doing their job, essentially. Okay, there's an argument for that. I mean, maybe it's not the best idea to have federal agencies doing that kind of stuff. But it's not secret. It's not a secret organization. It's not secret police. These people getting taken away, they get attorneys. It's not. It's not Nazi stuff. And if you keep claiming everything is Nazi stuff, no one's going to believe you when Nazi stuff actually occurs. I don't know how else to put it, but it's like if everything is Nazi, nothing's Nazi. Nobody's gonna believe you when something actually really bad's happening, and you're like actually pointing at like here's something really dangerous and authoritarian, and here's people's rights being violated, and then but you've been saying everything's Nazi, like this stuff, and oh, this is secret police, this is brown shirts, this is Gestapo, when it's clearly not, objectively not. People just aren't going to take you seriously anymore. Your words don't have. It's. I mean, wouldn't that be a shame if, like, to say somebody was Nazi-like suddenly didn't have meaning to it anymore? Because it's like, well, who's calling them a Nazi? It really depends. That's the point we're at. It's been completely. I don't want to say that. I guess the culture's been saturated with accusations, and most of them do not have any merit at all. So, if you start the argument off that you think there's some sort of civil rights abuse, and you're saying basically secret, unmarked police, blah blah blah, and you've lost the argument. You lost the argument. You're not going to break through to anybody, because anybody who's objectively watching what's going on, who's not already into the hysterics, they're just going to tune you out. They're going to be like, yeah, I don't care what you have to say. You're upset that, some Antifa person got punched in the face and got arrested. We don't care. We don't care. They're burning down the city. We don't care. We don't care who stops them. That's the stance they're going to take. And especially if it's like, oh, you're okay with this, you must be, supporting Nazi. I saw somebody, it was a post, I don't remember who it was, but they were saying like, oh, Republicans are like, oh, you need assault rifles to fight the government, but then when secret police show up and arrest people, then they're applauding it. Maybe that's because this isn't a secret police situation. Maybe this is because they understand restraint. You can't just say like, oh, you're not outraged the way I'm outraged, so therefore you're, a Nazi or something, or you're a hypocrite. It's like, no, that's not really how it works, especially when anybody paying attention knew what was going on with DHS. They knew what was going on with Antifa, and they knew that basically the crackdown was going to come at some point. Like, why are you surprised that DHS is like arresting these people? They've been out there in Portland rioting for, what was it, 2 months now? Just burning shit down, breaking things, getting caught by the Portland PD and then being released immediately afterwards. Like, how long do you think that's going to go on before a federal agency gets involved? And they just round up some people who are continuing to create this chaos. And you think people are going to feel bad when those people are eventually stopped? I mean, some people do, because they weren't paying attention, and then all they see is like, oh my God, these guys in camo are arresting these anti-fascists. Yeah. Just because your name is anti-fascist doesn't make you anti-fascist. If anybody's close to the brown shirts, it's them. They basically intimidate, beat the shit out of people who are from opposing political stances. Even if you're just not anti-fascist enough, they consider you the enemy. And they're burning the cities down, and they're shitting all over the place, and they're beating the shit out of, people who they are, I don't know, white supremacists, whatever it is. They're pretty much doing brown shirt tactics. It's something interesting about the brown shirts, which that's the other thing. The one, people calling them Gestapo, at least that was coherent. It was wrong. It's objectively wrong, but at least that was coherent, because the Gestapo was an arm of the political wing of the Nazi Party, and not that DHS is an arm of Trump's political party or anything. But the point being is, like, at least you can kind of stretch it and say that. I mean, you could say, you can kind of call any federal agency a Gestapo, and you at least are grounded in some sort of reality, because you have an argument. But there's people calling them brown shirts. Now, for the people saying this is a brown shirt situation or anything like it, unbelievably historically illiterate. And this is why people who are historians, or just people who just pay attention and know stuff, don't take you guys seriously at all. They don't take your criticism seriously at all, because brown shirts were a paramilitary organization that was there basically doing what Antifa does: beat, terrorize, enforce political dogma, that helped the Nazis rise to power. Once Hitler was in power, like, this is basically, they were a cultural enforcement organization for the political wing of the Nazi Party in Germany. And once they got the Nazis in power, Hitler in power, he got rid of them. He said, "You guys are rabble rousers. You guys are the ones burning stuff down." But kind of like Antifa. And he got rid of them. He killed them. He executed their leaders. It was like two gay guys in a bed. He walked up and shot them. But a lot of guys didn't know that basically the leaders of the brown shirts were gay identitarians, essentially. I mean, they had their socialist ideals, and they helped Hitler get to power, and then Hitler paid them back by killing them because they were a threat to his power. He didn't want to be beholden to the mob. So, and people saying these DHS guys or secret police are like brown shirts. You guys don't know what the brown shirts were. You just heard that was a. You don't want to be a brown shirt. It's a Nazi thing, so therefore you accuse them of being a Nazi thing. It's not the same. Not the same. I mean, let me put it this way: if you were going to say, if you were going to accuse somebody of being brown shirts, you'd have to say like the. I'm not saying I agree with this, but like people would say like, the Patriot Prayer people or the 3%ers or the Tea Party people, they're brown shirts. You're wrong, but at the same time, at least that's coherent because it's not like they're a federal agency, that you're saying are brown shirts. So, learn a little history, grow up, don't panic, don't scream Nazi when there's no Nazis. It's not a Nazi thing occurring. It's not even really a authoritarian thing occurring. It's like this. You could see this coming miles away. These people were warned over and over and over and over again, and then finally DHS shows up and nabs them, and then people are freaking out. And I like to think that people freaking out are just people who haven't been paying attention, and then this is suddenly sprung on them. But there's a number of you who are saying stuff like, accusing them of being Gestapo, saying that they were peacefully protesting, and then the DHS showed up and grabbed. That's not true. That's not true. And by spreading that and saying that just to get sympathy, if a supposed moderate bites, when they find out you lied to them, you're going to have red pilled them harder than any conservative making a video or making an argument could have, because you lied to them. So don't do that. Don't be hyperbolic. You're hurting your own cause. And you're also making discussion really unpleasant. Because if you start from a point of, if you disagree with me, you're supporting Nazis and Nazi action, well, guess what? People are going to put up the defenses and be really hostile. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I mean, that's a hell of a way to start a conversation with somebody, is to accuse them of being a Nazi. Yep, been going on too long. But I did want to make that point. I did want to talk about the Portland situation because, man, the rhetoric is ridiculous online. Absolutely ridiculous. So, that's all.